At the beginning of the 2000s, Nokia was not just a successful company. It was the most powerful name in the mobile phone industry. At its peak, Nokia controlled more than 40% of the global mobile phone market. In many countries, owning a Nokia phone was almost automatic. The brand was known for reliability, strong battery life, durable hardware, and devices that simply worked. Phones like the Nokia 3310 became cultural icons. They were nearly indestructible, easy to use, and trusted by millions of people around the world. For years, Nokia looked unbeatable. Competitors like Motorola, Sony Ericsson, and BlackBerry tried to compete, but none could match Nokia's scale. The company had an enormous manufacturing network, strong relationships with mobile carriers, and a product lineup that covered every price point from basic phones to early smartphones. But less than a decade later, the impossible happened. Nokia collapsed. The world's biggest phone brand lost its dominance, its influence, and eventually, its entire smartphone business. By 2013, Nokia's phone division had been sold to Microsoft in what many saw as the final chapter of one of the most dramatic declines in technology history. To understand why the world's biggest phone brand failed, you have to look at the moment when the mobile industry changed forever. In 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone. At first, many industry insiders didn't take it seriously. Compared to Nokia's devices, the first iPhone seemed limited. It lacked features that many phones already had, such as removable batteries, expandable storage, and even 3G connectivity. But Apple wasn't trying to build a better phone in the traditional sense. It was building a new kind of computing device. The iPhone replaced physical keyboards and buttons with a large touchscreen interface. Instead of navigating through complicated menus, users interacted directly with apps and gestures. More importantly, Apple introduced the concept of a modern smartphone platform built around software. When the App Store launched in 2008, it allowed developers around the world to build applications for the iPhone. Suddenly, the phone became more than just a communication device. It became a portable computer with an expanding ecosystem of apps. This shift from hardware to software changed everything, and it exposed one of Nokia's biggest weaknesses. Nokia had incredible hardware engineering and manufacturing capabilities, but its software strategy was fragmented and outdated. The company relied heavily on an operating system called Symbian. Symbian had been designed during an earlier era of mobile phones. It worked well for devices with small screens and physical buttons, but it struggled to adapt to modern touch interfaces. Developers also found Symbian difficult to build applications for. As Apple and later Google made app development easier, the software ecosystems around iOS and Android grew rapidly. Thousands of developers began creating apps for these platforms. Meanwhile, Nokia's software ecosystem lagged behind. Inside the company, there were also deep internal struggles about how to respond to the smartphone revolution. Some teams believed Nokia should double down on improving Symbian. Others wanted to build a completely new operating system. Nokia actually started developing a promising platform called MeeGo in partnership with Intel. Early prototypes showed significant potential and could have become a serious competitor to iOS and Android. But the project moved slowly, and the company struggled to commit fully to one direction. While Nokia debated internally, Apple and Google were moving fast. Android, backed by Google, quickly spread across multiple smartphone manufacturers. Companies like Samsung, HTC, and LG adopted the operating system and began releasing powerful touchscreen smartphones. The smartphone market was evolving rapidly, and Nokia was losing precious time. Another major issue was corporate culture. For years, Nokia had been the dominant leader in the mobile phone industry. That success created confidence inside the company, but it also made it harder to recognize how quickly the industry was changing. Some executives underestimated the importance of software ecosystems and app developers. Others believed Nokia's brand strength and global distribution would protect it from new competitors. But the smartphone revolution was not about incremental improvements. It was about a complete shift in how phones were designed, used, and experienced. Touchscreens, mobile apps, and software integration were becoming the most important parts of the product. And in those areas, Nokia was falling behind. In 2010, Nokia appointed Stephen Elop as its new CEO. Elop made a dramatic decision that would defined the company's future. Instead of continuing to develop its own operating systems, Nokia partnered with Microsoft and adopted the Windows Phone platform. The strategy was meant to create a third ecosystem that could compete with Apple and Android. But the move came with enormous risks. By abandoning Symbian and scaling down MeeGo, Nokia effectively placed its entire smartphone future on Windows Phone. The problem was that Windows Phone never gained strong traction with developers or consumers. The app ecosystem remained limited compared to iOS and Android. Many popular apps either arrived late or never arrived at all. Without a strong app ecosystem, it became difficult to convince customers to choose Windows phones over competitors. Meanwhile, Samsung and other Android manufacturers were releasing increasingly powerful smartphones every year. Apple continued refining the iPhone, strengthening its ecosystem of hardware, software, and services. Nokia's once dominant position eroded quickly. Market share declined. Sales dropped. The company struggled to compete in the high-end smartphone market while also losing ground in lower-cost devices to emerging competitors. By 2013, the situation had become unsustainable. Microsoft purchased Nokia's phone division in a deal worth over $7 billion. What had once been the most powerful mobile phone company in the world had effectively exited the smartphone industry. The collapse of Nokia remains one of the most famous examples of disruption in technology. It shows how quickly industry leaders can fall when a technological shift changes the rules of competition. Nokia did many things right for decades. It built durable products, global distribution, and a trusted brand. But when the smartphone revolution arrived, the center of the industry moved from hardware to software ecosystems. Companies that understood that shift early gained enormous advantages. Companies that moved too slowly struggled to keep up. Nokia's story is not just about failure. It is about how innovation can redefine an entire industry almost overnight. And it serves as a reminder that even the biggest companies in the world can lose their lead if they fail to adapt when technology changes the game.